Thank you so much. I am a journalist. My job is to talk to people from all walks of life all over the world. Today, I want to tell you why I decided to do this with my life and what I've learned. My story begins in Caracas, Venezuela, in South America where I grew up, a place that to me was and always will be filled with magic and wonder. From a very young age, my parents wanted me to have a wider view of the world. I remember one time when I was around 7 years old, my dad came up to me and said, Mariana, I'm going to send you and your little sister, who was 6 at the time, to the place where nobody speaks Spanish. I want you to experience different cultures. He went on and on about the benefits of spending an entire summer in this summer camp in the United States, stressing a little phrase that I didn't pay too much attention to at the time. You never know what the future holds. Meanwhile, in my 7-year-old mind, I was thinking we were going to get to summer camp in Miami. Maybe it was going to be even better, and we were going to go a little further north to Orlando where Mickey Mouse lived. I got really excited. My dad, however, had a slightly different plan. From Caracas, he sent us to Brenner, Minnesota. Mickey Mouse was not up there, and with no cell phone, no Snapchat or Instagram, I couldn't look up any information. We got there, and one of the first things I noticed was that the other kids had several shades of blonde, and most of them had blue eyes. Meanwhile, this is what we look like. The first night, the camp director gathered everyone around the campfire and said, Kids, we have very international camp this year. The attenders are here from Venezuela. The other kids looked at us as if we were from another planet. We would ask us things like, do you know what are hamburgers? Or do you go to school on a donkey or canoe? I would try to answer in my broken English and they would just laugh. I know they were not trying to be mean. They were just trying to understand who we were and make a correlation with the word they knew. We could either act like characters out of book filled with adventure, like Aladdin or Jungle Book. We certainly didn't look like them. We didn't speak their language. We were different. When you're 7 years old, that hurts. But I had my little sister to take care of, and she cried every day at summer camp. So I decided to put on a brave face and embrace everything I could about the American way of life. We later did what we call the summer camp experiment for 8 years in different cities that many Americans haven't even heard of. What I remember most about these moments was when I finally clicked with someone. Making a friend was a special reward. Everybody wants to feel valued and accepted, and we think it should happen spontaneously, but it doesn't. When you're different, you have to work at belonging. You have to be either really helpful, smart, funny, anything to be cool for the crowd you want to hang out with. Later on, when I was in high school, my dad expanded on his summer plan. And from Caracas, he sent us to Wallingford, Connecticut for the senior year high school. This year, I remember daydreaming on the plan about the American high school experience with a blocker. It was going to be perfect, just like in my favorite TV show. I get there, and they tell me that my excited roommate is eagerly waiting. I opened the door, and there she was, sitting on the bed, with a headscarf. Her name was Fatima, and she was Muslim from Bahrain, and she was not what I expected. She probably sensed my disappointment that when I looked at her because I didn't do too much to hide it. See, as a teenager, I wanted to fit with someone. I wanted to be popular, maybe have a boyfriend for prom. And I felt that Fatima just got in the way with her shyness and her strict dress code. I didn't realize that I was making her feel like the kids at the summer camp make me feel. These were the high school equivalent to asking her, do you know the hamburgers? I was consumed by my own selfishness and unable to put myself in her shoes. I have to be honest with you. We only lasted a couple of months together because she was later sent to live with a counselor instead of other students. I remember thinking, oh, still okay. She is just different. Usually, when you label someone as different, it dehumanizes them in the way they become the other. They're not worthy of our time, not our problem, and in fact, they, the other, are probably the cause of our problems. So, how do we recognize our blind spots? It begins by understanding what makes you different, by embracing those traits. Only then can you begin to appreciate what makes others special. I remember when this hit me, it was a couple months after that. I had found that boyfriend for prom, make a group of friends, and participate until everybody signed on to participate for this talent show for charity. I need to offer a talent for ocean. It seemed like everybody has something special to offer. Some kids are going to play the violin, others were going to race it, the theater movie, and I remember thinking, we don't practice talents like this back home. But I was determined to find something of value. The day of the talent shows comes, and I get up on the stage with a little pose and put on the style and breastplate. The song by my favorite emerging artist Sakira comes up. And I go, wherever we mean to be together. And I said, my name is Mariana and I'm going to audition a dance class. It seems like the whole school raised their hand to beat. My dance class really stood out from like the 10 rolling class offered that day. Going back to my dorm room, I didn't feel different. I felt really special. That's when I started thinking about Fatima, a person that I had felt to see as special when I first met her. She was from Middle East. Just like Sakura's family were from the Middle East, she could have probably told me a thing or two about belly dancing had I been open to it. Now I want you all to take the piece of paper that we're giving you at the beginning, where you broke down what makes you special, and I want you to look at it. If you are watching at home, take a piece of paper and write down what makes you different. You may feel guarded when you look at it, might be a little ashamed, might be even proud, but you need to begin to embrace it. Remember, it is the first step in appreciating what makes others special. When I went back home to Venezuela, I began to understand how these experiences were changing me. Being able to speak different language, to navigate on these different people and places, it gave me a unique sensibility. I was finally begin to understand the importance of putting myself in other people's shoes. That's a big part of the reason why I decided to become a journalist. Especially being from a part of the world that's often labeled the backyard, the illegal aliens, third world, the others. I wanted to do something to change that. It was right around the time when the Venezuelan government shut up the biggest television station, sponsorships were growing. My dad came up to me once again and said, how are you going to be a journalist here? You have to leave. That's when it hit me. That's what he had been preparing me for. That's what the future held for me. So in the 2008, I packed my bags and I came to the United States without a return ticket this time. I was painfully aware that at 24 years old, I was becoming a refugee of sorts, a immigrant, the other, once again, and now for good. I was able to come to a scholarship to study journalism. I remember when they gave me the first assignment to cover the historic election of President Barack Obama. I felt so lucky, so hopeful. I was like, yes, this is it. I've come to prosperous America, where the notion of Earth are damned to being eroded and will probably be eradicated in my lifetime. Boys, was I wrong, right? Why did Barack Obama residency evaluate racial tensions in our country? Why do some people still feel threatened by immigrants, LGBTQ, and minority groups who are just trying to find a place in this United States? What should be for all of us? I didn't have the answers back then. But on the November 8, 2016, when Donald Trump became our president, it became clear that a large part of the electorate sees them as the others. Some see people coming to take their jobs, or potential terrorists who speak a different language. Meanwhile, minority groups oftentimes just see hatred, intolerance, and narrow-mindedness on the other side. It's like we are stuck in these bubbles that nobody wants to be burst. The only way to do it, the only way to get out of it, is to realize that being different also means thinking differently. It takes courage to show respect. In the words of Voltaire, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I will fight to that to defend your right to say it. Failing to see anything good on the other side makes a dialogue impossible. Without the dialogue, we will keep repeating because we will not learn anything new. I covered the 2016 election for NBC News, and it was my first big excitement in this mainstream network where I had crossed over from Spanish television, and I wanted to do something different. I watched election results with undocumented families. Few thought of sharing that moment with people who weren't citizens, but actually stood the most to lose that night. When it became apparent that Donald Trump was winning, the 8-year-old girl named Angelina rushed up to me in tears. She sobbed and she asked me if her mom is going to be deported now. I hugged her back and said, "It's going to be okay," but I really didn't know. This was the photo we took that night, forever ingrained in my heart. Here was the little girl, who was around the same age I was when I went to the summer camp. She already knows she the other. She walks home from school in fear, and that her mom can be taken away. So how do we put ourselves in Angelina's shoes? How do we make her understand she is special and not simply unworthy to having her family together? By giving camera time to her and families like hers, I try to make people see them as human beings and not simply illegal aliens. Yes, they broke the law, and they should pay a penalty for it, but they're also giving everything for this country like many other immigrants before them have. I've already told you how my path to personal brought to end. I want to tell you how I hit the worst boom in the road yet. One shocked me to my very core. The day of April 10th, 2014. I was driving to the studio and I got a call from my parents. "Are you on the air?" they asked. I immediately knew something was wrong. "What happened?" I said. "It's your sister. She is being in a car accident." It was as if my heart stopped. My hands gripped the steering wheel, and I remember hearing the words, "Is it unlikely she will ever walk again?" They said your life can change in split second. Mine did at that moment. My sister went from being my successful other half, only a year apart in age, to not being able to move her legs, sit up, or get dressed by herself. This wasn't like summer camp where I could emotionally make it better. This was terrifying. Through the course of 2 years, my sister underwent 15 surgeries, and she spent the most of the time in the wheelchair. But that wasn't even the worst of it. The worst was something so painful it's hard to put into words even now. It was the way people looked at us, Jen. People were unable to see a successful lawyer or a millionaire with a sandwich or kind heart. Everywhere we went, I realized that people just saw a poor girl in a wheelchair. They were unable to see anything beyond that. After fighting like a warrior, I can thankfully tell you that today my sister is walking. and has recovered beyond anyone's expectation. Thank you. But during that dramatic, I learned there are differences what symbolic shock. It's hard to find positive in them. My sister's not better off because of what happened. But she taught me you can't let those differences define you. Being able to reimagine myself beyond what other people said. That is the toughest task of all, but it's also the most beautiful. You see, we are come in this world in a body, people with physical or neurological difficulties, environmental empathy communities, immigrants, girls, boys who want to dress as girls, girls with veils, women who have been sexually attracted who bend their knees as a sign of protest, black, white, Asian, Native American, my sister, you or me. We all want what everyone wants to dream and to achieve. But sometimes society tells us, and we tell ourselves, we don't fit the mold. Well, if you looked at my story, from being born somewhere different and belly dancing in high school and telling stories you wouldn't normally see on TV, what makes me different and what has made me stand out and be successful. I have traveled the world and talked to people from all walks of life. You know what I've learned? The single thing every one of us has to common is being human. Being human. So taking a stand to defend your race, the human race. Let's appeal to it. Let's be humanist before and after everything else. To end, I want you to take that sticker, that piece of paper where you wrote down what makes you special, and I want you to celebrate it. Shout it from the rooftop. I also encourage you to be curious and ask, what's on other people's piece of paper? What makes them different? Let's celebrate those imperfections, what makes us special. I hope that it teaches you that nobody has the claim on the world no more. We are all different. We are all quirky and unique. And that is what makes us wonderfully human. Thank you so much